Bob here with Odin's Lock. I want to talk about key duplication. I've recently seen some discussion about, sure, you can duplicate keys that say do not duplicate. It also matters if it's a restricted keyway system or not, and what measures you need to go to protect your customers. But basically, what you can do as a locksmith, keep other locksmiths and key cutters from duplicating a key. A knowledgeable locksmith can copy any key for which he or she has a blank, but there are things that you can do to make it less likely that anyone will duplicate a key. Using a neuter bow blank, such as this, which is basically the same thing as a Kwikset KW1. They come in, you can get these in all kinds of different keyways, SC1, KW1, Y1, I mean, pretty much any one of them. It just basically, for a hardware store, they won't know how to duplicate this unless they understand, the milling itself. And so you can kind of look and see the difference between this and this. It's all flat. So on one side, and so there is that. So that's a neuter bow key, and that alone will stump a lot of the key cutters, the hardware stores, because they don't know how to identify blanks by the keyway grooves. And then there's the stamp "Do Not Duplicate" on the bow, as that already has it. You can buy them already stamped with it. Another thing you can do is after you duplicate a key, using your key machine, you can lightly shave down the bottom so that it changes the depth of it. That'll make a new key seem to be a normal width, but it will sit too low in the key machine vise, so that any new key made from it will be miscut. And we used to have an older locksmith in our area that he used to do that. He'd shave them down, and if you took his key to a hardware store, they wouldn't be able to do it. Every key they would make would be wrong. And is it illegal to duplicate a key marked "Do Not Duplicate"? In some places, it is illegal to duplicate a key marked "Do Not Duplicate" without getting positive identification and keeping a written record of the work on file. In most places, however, such a phrase stamped on a key is merely a request and doesn't create any legal restrictions or obligations on locksmiths or key cutters, such as the hardware store people. Anyone can have any key marked "Do Not Duplicate," and I've had many customers ask to have that phrase stamped on their keys because it at least causes eyebrows to be raised when someone tries to get copies as a legal matter. However, the type of key is usually more significant than stamping with respect to which keys may be copied, such as like BEST, SFIC, Key Mark, Medico, and all that. Whether required or not for your protection, it's best to have a policy of not duplicating any key mark "Do Not Duplicate." Unless you can legally copy it and the key holder shows positive identification, you should also maintain a log of all such keys that you duplicate in that manner. And I'm just going to say, I will not duplicate a key. I don't care if it's Kwikset, Schlage, if it says "Do Not Duplicate," I know personally that you should always try to push restricted keyways. That's the best method of security, is restricted keyways, so it limits the access of people that can actually have that key blank itself. And it also routes people to your business. So there's a money side to that. So, and you can charge more, for that restricted keyway, to duplicate those. But I personally, that single mother or single parent that doesn't want their key getting copied, by their maybe their teenage kid or their boyfriend, girlfriend, or you just don't want people making copies of your keys, and you got the original with the bidding or whatever, and then you have all the new keys stamped "Do Not Duplicate." I will not duplicate that. I'm sorry, I just won't do it unless I have a way to prove that is your key and that you have a right to do it. And that's just me personally. There's locksmiths that don't care. They'll duplicate keys, stamp "Do Not Duplicate" all day long, because to them there's no security in stamping that. And to me, if someone went to the trouble to have a key stamp "Do Not Duplicate," then I will respect that and honor that. And that's me personally. Other locksmiths may do it because they want the $3, whatever it costs for the key. I would say if a key stamped that, at least, the very least, charge $10 per key, to duplicate that. And I would just make that a policy. Make it harder for someone, or less likely for them to duplicate that. Because there's a reason someone has that key stamp "Do Not Duplicate," and that's for their protection, their own safety. Maybe they don't make enough money to buy someone's personal restricted keyway system for their apartment or their house, And you know, that's just the one little thing they can do. And as a locksmith trying to be honest, I will not do it. Now, if you want to take it to a hardware store and they want to duplicate that, then that's on them. You know, I'm more power to them. You know, I personally, I will not do it. And unless you can prove to me that you have the right to access to it. And I usually, you know, if I do offer to stamp do not duplicate, but I always tell the customer that this is by no means going to make your locks more secure or keep anyone from duplicating your keys. Because I'm not sure if those key machines at the Walmart, you know, the minute keys, I'm not sure if they'll do it, whether it's you know, duplicated, do not duplicate or not. And I don't even know how they read them. It may be they go off the milling or the head, I don't know. But that's for me. And you know, I personally would ask the locksmiths, if it says do not duplicate, then honor that. Someone took the time to do that. Sure, of course, you want a restricted keyway and you want to sell your restricted keyway to people, but you know, not everyone can afford to do that. So, and it's almost always illegal or foolish for a locksmith to duplicate a key that he or she knows or reasonably suspects is being copied without the consent of the owner or used for criminal activity. That isn't to say, however, that every time someone wants a key made, the locksmith must track down the owner of the key and figure out the key holder's intentions. But in unusual situations, you could be found negligent for not looking further into a matter before duplicating the key. Here's a situation that I've read about. A woman came to them, their shop, in a clay mold, with the clay mold of a medical key, and wanted them to make a key, you know, to that. And she explained that she made that mold because her husband wouldn't let her have a key to their house. The woman was acting nervous, wouldn't show any identification, nor would she tell them where she lived. So, you know, the locksmith declined to make the key. And I think if he had made the key that she used it to break into a home or business, that they could have been found, you know, they could have faced criminal and civil charges because they would have been found negligent and under unique circumstances. It's also illegal to duplicate post office boxes without permission of the postmaster or post office superintendent. That's not to say the individual person's post office box that's on those trees that you find around an apartment complexes. Usually the post office owns the lock that opens all the doors, and the individuals, the tenants, would have their own keys made from the locksmith or whatever. But anyways, I just wanted to cover that. It's just a quick video. You know, like I said, I personally, I will scrutinize if that key says do not duplicate. I don't care if it's a little Y11 scooter key or Kwikset, Schleg. If it says do not duplicate, I'm going to honor it because someone took the time to have a locksmith stamp that. And I know the locksmith at the time would have told him, well, it doesn't do nothing for your security. It's still one little small measure. And Sam, you know, just someone that just couldn't afford to have all their locks put on a new restricted keyway system, you know. Not everyone can afford to do that. And if your house just has a deadbolt or a doorknob, you know, buying into someone's restricted keyway system is kind of a weird thing to do. I have sold Medico, you know, locks to people for deadbolts on their houses, and it's like the doors were junk and windows, sliding glass doors, all this other stuff would have been the better option for a burglar to break into. And I told them that, but they didn't care. They just wanted the best lock there was, and they felt like Medico was. But anyways, I just wanted to cover that. It's just a quick video, and like I said, I'm just going to appeal to other locksmiths, and you can do what you want. It's your business. If you want that $3, you know, I would say at the very least, I would charge a lot more if you're going to go ahead and duplicate a residential key that's stamped do not duplicate. Just make it harder for them to attain it, you know. And if you know it's the homeowner, then that's a different deal, you know. But maybe they just don't want someone in their family getting the extra keys out. We don't know what the circumstances are, and they don't always know what they're going to run into, and then sometimes they just want their key stamp do not duplicate. So and I've had people tell me to grind the milling off on their pre-cuts, you know, so I'll just go ahead and cut new ones and, you know, destroy those keys. But you know, I cut them without the bitting. But anyways, I just want to cover that. And you know, best is another one. You can duplicate these. Most of them it says duplication prohibited on a lot of them, but a lot of them the keyways are no longer restricted. They're just harder to come by, you know, in my opinion. But there are some that are restricted. They're still locked under the seal of their patent or whatever. But all right, that's all I want to talk about. Thanks for watching. Bye.